Very good evening and welcome. This is Newsfirst Primetime News on TV1. Today is the 17th of January 2022. I am Jamal Ratnayaka for the Newsfirst team. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
Our crisis aggravates. No fuel without dollar payments, says Energy Minister.
They can supply all around the day 24 hours, or they can have a power cut of 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so on and so forth.
3,000 metric tons of diesel supplied to the Ceylon Electricity Board to last until tomorrow. Farmers affected by government's organic fertilizer policy demand compensation. Rumors of a rice crisis are false, Trade Minister iterates.
Sambar කිලුවක් රුපියල් 130ට වඩා වැඩිය විකුණන්නෙම නැහැ මොනම තත්ත්වයකට.
එන සිංහල හින්දු අලුත් අවුරුද්ද වෙනකොට අපි හිතනවා මේ හාල් කිලෝ එක 250 300 පනින්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා.
Second session of the 9th Parliament to commence tomorrow. German submarine hunter reaches Colombo port.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
On to your top story for this evening. Today is Durutu Full Moon Poya Day, the first Poya Day of the new year. The significance of Durutu Full Moon Poya Day is that it marks Gautama Buddha's first visit to Sri Lanka and depicts the value of unity to the world.
Gautama Buddha visited Mahiyangane for the first time 9 months after attaining enlightenment. It was on a day like today that Gautama Buddha set foot on Sri Lanka for the first time to solve a confrontation between the Yaksha and Naga tribes. During his visit, Lord Buddha delivered sermons to the tribes. After hearing the sermons, the tribes gave up fighting with each other and started to respect one another with dignity. Many devotees across the island gathered at the temple of the Truth Relic in Kandy today to invoke blessings for the new year. Devotees engaged in religious observances at the Mahiyangane Rajamaha Viharaya, Anuradhapura Jayasri Mahabodhi, Polonnaru Gal Viharaya and other places of worship.
We now cross over for a short commercial break. Stay tuned to News First.
Newsfirst. Main sponsor.
Consult a psychiatrist on the ODOC app from the privacy of your home. Sun all-purpose disinfectant spray. Put your health first with family doctors, pediatricians, psychiatrists, cardiologists and more specialist doctors on the ODOC app. We will also be gifting you with free delivery on Uber Eats once you consult and order your meds on ODOC.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Some days you might be feeling down and you want to talk to someone. Video channel a licensed psychiatrist on ODOC from the comfort and privacy of your home. ODOC is by your side, always.
Welcome back to the news. Worsening fuel shortages have become a major talking point amid a multitude of such shortages reported from the country. In a fresh development of this matter, Energy Minister Uday Gammampila says fuel won't be supplied to the Ceylon Electricity Board if payments are not made in dollars. The minister said Sri Lanka's transport sector would face a major crisis if remaining fuel stocks are used for power generation.
The Ministers of Power and Energy are at loggerheads over the crisis relating to power and fuel.
What is the situation at present?
Has the Energy Ministry decided it won't supply fuel to the CEB if it doesn't pay dollars?
We don't produce diesel or furnace oil here. We don't have sufficient stock to release to the CEB. In addition to that, we don't have more than enough foreign currency to import on their behalf. Therefore, we have no choice but to ask foreign currency from them in order to place their import orders.
The minister also said there are 2 oil tankers with 76,000 metric tons of fuel in Sri Lanka. He added that the fuel consignments can be unloaded if the CEB pays them dollars.
How much dollars are required to import fuel?
Energy Minister Udaya Gamampila said Sri Lanka requires about $400 million monthly to import fuel. He said another $30 million would have to be spent if fuel is used to generate electricity. The minister added that they are facing difficulties in finding dollars to import fuel and to meet the daily demand.
What will happen tomorrow?
3,000 metric tons of diesel provided to the Ceylon Electricity Board for power generation will last until tomorrow. Power cuts are likely to be imposed if power stations run out of fuel to produce electricity.
That amount of fuel would last until about 5 p.m. tomorrow. After 5 p.m., we will have to close down the power generating units at the Kalanithissa as there is no fuel. The national grid will lose about 300 megawatts of power. If the fuel crisis persists, we will have to impose power cuts for about 1.5 hours during peak hours after 5 p.m. tomorrow. This crisis is being created by the chairman over the deal to give away a 40% stake of the Yugadanavi power plant to the New Fortress company and to allow it to gain complete control over LNG supplies.
The Energy Minister says the CEB didn't request for fuel on time.
In
September, we informed them that if there is a need for fossil fuel or diesel, they must pay us the required foreign currency as we are facing a foreign exchange crisis. But they had informed us that they will have enough fuel until the end of January and that they wouldn't require fuel. On the 7th of January, they informed us that they need fossil fuel. We then agreed to supply it to them until the 22nd. On the 11th of January, they informed us that they need diesel until the 13th of January. Will the transport sector be affected if fuel is provided for power generation?
If we give our existing orders, then there will be a shortage in the transport sector that is more critical than having a shortage in the electricity generation or power generation sector, because they can supply all around the day 24 hours, or they can have a power cut of 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so on and so forth. But in transport sector, either you have or you have not. Therefore, uninterrupted fuel supply for transport sector is more vital than the supply to power generation sector.
How much fuel is required by Sri Lanka? Did the closure of the Sapugaskanda oil refinery aggravate the problem?
Sri Lanka requires 5,100 metric tons of auto diesel daily, making it the type of fuel with the highest demand. There is a demand for 225 metric tons of super diesel as well. Thermal power plants in Sri Lanka use fossil fuel, diesel and naphtha to generate electricity. On average, Sri Lanka requires 1,500 metric tons each of fossil fuel and diesel to generate electricity daily. The amount varies based on the power generated by hydropower and coal power plants. The Sapugaskanda oil refinery had the capacity of supplying 940 metric tons of naphtha and 450 metric tons of diesel daily. Its closure has affected the supply of fuel to power plants.
What is the situation at the Norochule coal power plant?
The third power generating unit at the Norochule coal power plant is currently inactive. The national grid has lost 300 megawatts of electricity as a result. The Ceylon Electricity Board has said that the fault cannot be rectified until the 22nd of this month.
Is China involved in the maintenance of the Norochole coal power plant? Maintenance is carried out locally. Let's assume you have a Toyota vehicle. This is how they do business. A vehicle has been built in a way that certain things can't be repaired without their assistance. Similarly, they have blocked access to certain areas in the system. Now they have come to the country and are repairing it. It will end on the 24th. When will this crisis end? I feel there will be a crisis related to 5 matters in March. We must prepare for that. On 8 occasions, I have informed the Cabinet on the several steps that must be taken to limit fuel consumption. We must undertake middle-term and long-term solutions. If the Ceylon Electricity Board has money, they can give that money to the CPC. That will solve the issue. What is happening now? They are engaging in business deals. The money that is being held by the CEB and the CPC must be used to purchase oil. They are going after the IOC to purchase oil by avoiding the CPC to obtain commissions. We are allowing the United States to provide us electricity. On one hand, we are providing ships to China to distribute oil. Oil tanks are being given to India. The oil from the northeast is distributed by India. The country is becoming a colony of others.
A food crisis is emerging as experts blame the failure of making timely decisions over the fuel crisis. The crisis relating to food has arisen amidst constant changes in the government's fertilizer policy. 25th of October 2019, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna presidential candidate Gotapiraj Paksar releases Manifesto. The Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor policy mentions a transformation to organic farming in 10 years. May 9, 2021, Gazad published restricting imports of certain agrochemicals. In the midst of the fertilizer crisis in 2021, the government said the private sector would be allowed to import chemical fertilizer. 8 months after the ban on chemical fertilizer, what is the situation today? Farmers in Ailadi in Kantale are now reaping their harvest. They say their harvest has reduced compared to previous seasons.
We used to reap a harvest of 40 sacks using chemical fertilizer. This time, we only reaped a harvest of 10 days. This is what happens when we are asked to cultivate without chemical fertilizer or urea suddenly.
Middlemen who buy paddy from farmers say they use only 1 lorry to transport their harvest, although they had used about 3 lorries after previous harvests. Farmers of Madirigiriya in Polonnaruwa are demanding compensation from the government before fertilizer is distributed for the yellow season.
Are they protecting foreign farmers or local farmers? Should they import rice? Why don't they distribute fertilizer among farmers?
The shortage of fertilizer has affected vegetable production. As a result, fewer vegetables are arriving at the market. Vegetable sellers say that certain vegetables are being imported. Yesterday, Newsfirst reported a story of imported beetroots that were sold at the Dambula Dedicated Economic Centre. Imported beetroots were seen in Malabe today.
The kilogram of beetroot is 500 rupees. An imported kilogram of beetroot is sold at 350 rupees. Imported beetroots look better than local beetroots.
Will the local farmers be affected by the beetroots that are claimed to have been imported? Beetroot farmers say they are worried and uncertain as to what the future holds for them.
We heard that imported beetroots and vegetables are sold here. Don't do that. Let us sell our produce. Don't interfere with our livelihoods. Don't do this.
Farmers have cultivated beetroots in several areas including Jaffna, Valikamam South, Chunnagam, Kuppilan and Ponnale Kattuan.
We will reap our harvest in 15 days. What will happen to us if beetroots are imported from Pakistan? Fertilizer that used to cost 1,500 rupees is now sold at 6,000 or 7,000 rupees. How can we sell at our rates if beetroots are imported as we are about to reap our harvests? We are desperate. As the beetroot harvest in the north is about to be reaped, the Sri Lankan government and the Agriculture Ministry has imported beetroot from Pakistan. These are attempts to impact the income of local farmers. Normally when harvests are being reaped, import taxes are increased. However, this time it's quite the opposite. We condemn these imports. This must be halted.
Former JVP Provincial Councillor Nalin Hevage expressed the following views on the importation of food amidst the debt crisis. Vegetables worth 71 billion had been imported to the country last year. If they had obtained loans and used it on agriculture, then we will have potatoes, onions and rice. But the loans were not used on agriculture. They didn't use the loans for the industry sector as well. The rulers built the Lotus Tower to pocket commissions. Now they can't pay this debt. Rohana Rajapaksa now says they are going to sell 50 prime lands in Colombo for $6 billion before April. After selling off everything, what will remain for us? We saw Gotapiraj Rajapaksa stressing that they will build the country in the next 3 years. We wish to tell Gotapiraj Rajapaksa that a glass bowl cannot be restored after smashing it onto a rock.
Trade Minister Bantulu Gunawardena says rice imports have reduced over the last couple of years. After President Gotapiraj Rajapaksa was elected to power, we took all possible measures to restrict rice imports, unlike any other government that was in power after 1977. As a result of that, only 24,000 metric tons of rice was imported after 2019. $13 million had been spent on that. 16,000 metric tons of rice had been imported in 2020. 11 million had been spent on that. What steps have been taken to prevent a rice shortage 8 months after the government changed its fertilizer policy? We are taking steps to retain the cost of rice in view of the people's hunger. Therefore, we promise that after rice is imported, rice of the Nadu variety won't be sold at more than 105 rupees at Satos outlets. Sambarise won't be sold at more than 130 rupees under any circumstances. We will sell the required amount through Satos. The minister made these remarks as he launched a program to sell a bag of essential goods at a cost of 3,998 rupees.
A kilo of rice could increase up to 250 to 300 rupees by the next Sinhala and Tamil New Year. A country that once held celebrations is now in peril. The rulers caused this situation in the country. The main food consumed by Sri Lankans is rice. And now the country is at a point where Sri Lankans can't eat rice anymore. There is no rice. Agriculture is in a poor situation. We have to import rice now. We don't even have dollars to pay. We can see how our rulers are going from country to country begging for dollars.
The Piripun organization convened a media briefing today to express their views on the overall economic crisis in the country amidst the food, fuel and energy-related shortages. We are facing a severe economic crisis right now. What is being done is the total opposite of what should be done during such a time. That is how our economic management is like. We need to gain the support of international organizations such as the IMF, restructure our debt and immediately lift restrictions on imports and exports in order to restore normalcy. Citizens are suffering greatly as a result of these issues. The fertilizer crisis, gas shortage, milk powder shortage and so many other issues are a result of poor economic management. While the country is facing many issues relating to power, fertilizer and a dollar shortage, the second session of the 9th Parliament will begin tomorrow. Parliamentary sessions are to begin tomorrow at 10 a.m. under the auspices of President Gotapiraj Rajapaksa. The preparation for the occasion was held at the Parliamentary complex this morning. Do you remember? 12th December 2021, President issues a Gazad proroguing Parliament using powers vested with the Executive President under Article 70 of the Constitution. The Committee on Public Enterprises, chaired by Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna MP Professor Charita Herath, ceases to function after the Gazad was issued to prorogue Parliament. The committee, which was tasked with ensuring the financial discipline of state corporations and semi-governmental institutions, had revealed several issues relating to senior officials of the Board of Investment. Do you remember? The Committee on Public Accounts, headed by Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna MP Tissa Vitharana, ceases to function after the Gazad proroguing Parliament. The committee that is tasked with examining public expenses loses the power to examine the accounts of hundreds of companies. The Parliamentary Committee on Public Accounts had revealed that the money received through foreign direct investments had been spent on 4 projects without the knowledge of the Treasury. The committee had finally summoned officials of the Attorney General's Department. Do you remember? The prorogation of Parliament has seemed to compound the plethora of crises in the country, since it bears the ultimate authority on the nation's finances. Woes of the people have worsened over the last 6 weeks. This government threw farmers into a crisis. They have no control over the cost of goods, gas issues and electricity shortages. Verdicts were to be given on the sugar scam at the COPE and COPA. The sugar scam was worse than the bond scam. When Parliament is prorogued, terms of the select committees end as well. They did this to cover up the scams carried out by the government. Former chairman of the Committee on Public Enterprises, Sunil Hadannethi, expressed the following views. Over 73 years, all rulers of this country had one ambition, that is to loot the resources of this country collectively. When I investigated the bond scam, it began from Ranil and later led to Cabral. When I probed further, more names were revealed. All of them are friends. When you follow a lead, some of the people that are revealed are ones from past governments. Sri Lankan Airlines has suffered losses to the tune of millions. If you investigate it, Ranil Wickramasinghe and his gang had sold aircraft and the others had purchased them. They do not have divisions to loot and have formulated policies to do so collectively.
The district Balamandala meeting of the Samagi Vihidum Balaganaya was held in Badulla today. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa attended the event.
The Samagi Vihidum Balavegaya is an arm of the Samagi Jana Balavegaya. It is being led by SJB MP Chaminda Vijayasiri and Hesha Vitanage. They are misusing the state resources and assets as they wish. They are displaying pseudo-patriotism to the country. What are they doing? They are looting the country through that. That is how they committed scams relating to sugar and garlic. That is how they committed a scam on coconut oil as well. That is how they used the COVID-19 pandemic to engage in fraud. They committed a fraud through COVID-19 test kits as well. Corruption is rampant. The government that claims to be highly patriotic doesn't have a solution to the gas explosions. There is no permanent solution for the gas explosions. They destroyed agriculture in the country. Farmers have been left helpless as a result of a foolish fertilizer policy. The liquid fertilizer cans that they distributed as an alternative also started exploding. I wish to tell this to you clearly. There is no room for theft under a Samagi Jana Balavegaya government. I wish to tell you clearly that there is no room for thieves either.
More news follows after this short commercial break. Stay tuned to News First.
Is it 2 a.m. and your baby won't stop crying? You can speak to a pediatrician online on ODOC even if it's in the middle of the night. They are available 24/7 so you and your baby can cuddle more and cry less. Consult on ODOC today.
Welcome back to the news. His Lordship Valance Mendes assumed office as the new Bishop of Kandy at the St. Anthony's Cathedral today.
The Vatican had announced the appointment of Right Reverend Dr. Valance Mendes as the Bishop of Kandy. His Lordship would succeed Bishop Vyani Fernando, who is retiring from his position. Right Reverend Dr. Valance Mendes is the 7th Bishop of Kandy. His Lordship is also currently serving as the Bishop of Chila. His Lordship Valance Mendes assumed office as the new Bishop of Kandy at the St. Anthony's Cathedral today.
Let us thank and praise God for the gift of Bishop Vyani Fernando, who served the local church of Kandy and the church in Sri Lanka for 38 long years.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, conducted a special mass during the occasion.
Let me wish my episcopal colleague, His Lordship Bishop Valance Mendes, God's blessings and much happiness. I have had the privilege of associating closely with you, my Lord, as a friend and a person I admire. Your gentle and mild ways will endear you to your priests, and your sense of missionary outreach will help take this diocese forward in the years to come.
In some tragic news from earlier today, veteran singer and musician Neela Wickramasinghe passed away due to a medical illness earlier today. She was 72 years old when she breathed her last in Italy. Neela Wickramasinghe was serving as Sri Lanka's Consul General to Italy at the time of her demise. She was a sweetheart of Sri Lanka's entertainment industry and was famous for many songs, including Master Sir and Run Tikiri Sinha, that will undoubtedly continue to serenade many in the generations to come. Lankan fishermen who were arrested by the Myanmar Navy have urged authorities to expedite their release. The fishermen on board a multi-day fishing trawler were arrested by the Myanmar Navy on the 29th of November last year.
The Tushan Puta 1 multi-day fishing trawler had left Trincomalee coast on the 15th of November last year. While the fishermen were in deep seas 14 days later, the trawler's battery had exploded, causing it to float towards the waters of Myanmar. The Myanmar Navy had then arrested 8 fishermen on charges of encroaching into Myanmar's territorial waters. The fishermen had contacted their families 2 days upon their arrest. They aren't giving us food or water. We don't even have a place to sleep. They are taking us to the prison. We are in the prison bus. We were caged like dogs for 10 days.
My father and uncle have been arrested. My father is extremely sick. When he contacted me on the 12th, he said he was sick. He said he had taken some medicine. We are requesting the president to bring them back to the country.
My husband is there. We have no means of surviving. I have a 6-month-old child. We are requesting the president to bring them back to the country. We have no means of finding food.
Oxfam International says the world's 10 wealthiest men doubled their fortunes during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Oxfam International is a confederation of charities that focus on alleviating global poverty.
In a report published today, Oxfam said the wealth of the world's 10 richest men jumped from $700 billion to $1.5 trillion. This was at a daily average rate of $1.3 billion during the first 2 years of the pandemic. According to the report, the billionaires' wealth rose more during the pandemic than it did during the previous 14 years, while 160 million people face poverty. It said this inequality is contributing to the death of 21,000 people every day due to lack of access to healthcare, gender-based violence, hunger and climate change. Oxfam urged tax reforms to fund worldwide vaccine production as well as healthcare, climate adaptation and gender-based violence reduction to help save lives. It said if the 10 richest men spent $1 million each day, it would take them 414 years to spend their combined wealth.
International cricket returned to Sri Lanka for the new year yesterday when Sri Lanka took on Zimbabwe in the 3-match ODI series opener at the Pallekele International Cricket Stadium. Sri Lanka recorded a 5-wicket victory and went 1-0 ahead in the series. Speaking to the media following a stellar performance with the bat, opener Pathum Nissanka said the team's intention is to win the series and climb further up ODI rankings. And on that note, we bring to a close tonight's edition of Primetime News on TV1. For the